Hey, welcome to the Millennial Stoner. I am the Millennial Stoner, Joe Winchell. Just quick things. We always do this at the top of the episode. If you want to support the page, you can do that two ways. The first way is you can go to roccut.shop and check out some of our cool merch. I'm wearing the shirt, actually, for the fucking first time I'm doing this. This is one of our shirts. This is designed by Chris. This is me as a fucking chimpanzee, a monkey. And it's sort of become our little logo and everything. We like, if you watched last week's episode with me and Nick, you know that we love monkeys on the show. Yeah, check out. This is one of the shirts, and we got some new stuff coming out. We're going to do some holiday stuff, some promo stuff coming up, so keep your eye out for that. So you can support the page that way. But if maybe you've got a lot of bills, you can also support the page by just, liking the videos, the reels, share them. Subscribe to the YouTube page. Check out my Instagram. Subscribe to the Instagram page, Millennial Stoner. Just look up Joe Winchell. I'm that Winchell Kid 87. And then Millennial Stoner on Instagram, Facebook page. You can like, share, subscribe, comment. Comment, even if you fucking hate me, whatever. I probably don't like you or whatever. But it's fine. And if you like it, comment that, man. That's awesome. I love you. So that's the way you can support by not spending any money. Just show dates. I do have dates coming up this week at Sticks and Stones Comedy Club. So go to sticksandstonecomedyclub.com and check them out. It's going to be a really fun show. I think Rob White's going to be there, definitely. So just come down and check it out. It's a great time. And all future dates, go to sticksandstonecomedyclub.com. Yeah, cool. That was good, right?
That was good.
It's good. My guest this week is nobody. Nobody, because scheduling is tough, but I want to keep putting out content because I got you guys, the followers and the subscribers are really cool, and I appreciate all of you. Every week we get a couple more subscribers, so I didn't want to not put anything out. We had an episode with Mike Ellison not too long ago, and I told like a story about a bear attack.
Yeah.
So Chris was like, a lot of fucked up stories like that? And I'm like, yeah, I get high and watch YouTube all the time. It's literally 50% of my fucking downtime is just doing that. So he was like, if you have something else next time you don't have a guest or you can't find somebody, let's just record an episode of just you. And I don't think I'm Bill Burr or anything like that. Chris is on the mic, so I have someone to talk to.
Yes.
So yeah, we got this fucking idea of like, I know like weird stories, and I do. One of the things I like to do is I just like to just YouTube videos of just like weird events, and like, well, the animal attack thing was like, I went through like a series of like different animal attack videos, but there's like lore to them because man-eaters was like a real problem in America at one point.
Right.
So that's where that stuff comes from. But I also know these, like, the other thing I like to watch a lot of is these, like, like I think it's called Missing 411.
No.
So it's like, basically it's like forced disappearances.
Oh.
Okay. And like a lot of the like deep woods, it's very like hard to navigate and everything like that, and it's very untouched. It's fucking weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's in the Northwest Territories, which is in Canada. There's a place called Nahanni Valley, right?
Right.
So Nahanni Valley is deep in like the north. I think the Northwest Territories. You can look that up to make sure I'm right on that, but I'm pretty sure it's the Northwest Territories. And in the Northwest Territories, there's a place called Nahanni Valley, and it's very, very, very like deep in there, very difficult to get to. The only ways that you can get to it really, or like by like some sort of like plane or helicopter, or by like a very sort of, you can get there, you can like technically hike there, but it's like a very treacherous, and you have to go by boat, and there's like a whole river system in there that's like insane. There's cliffs to get to this area. And it became well known in like the late, like the early, I want to say like really the early 1900s. Like I would say, I think 1903 or 1902 was like the first like recorded like incident or whatever, because a lot of stuff, I'm sure people went missing there before, but people didn't really start recording stuff regularly, especially during the gold rush, because of the amount of prospectors that were like, like making their way to different parts of the world. Like a lot of stuff wasn't recorded and followed up on, but this was like the first real thing. And so in like 1902, 1903, there was these three brothers. They're called the McLeod brothers, and I think their names were like Frank, Charlie, and like Willie. I think that's exactly who they were, actually. Frank, Charlie, and Willie. And during the gold rush, like part of like the thing was that there were so many people going to like other areas. It was really hard to find these deposits of gold, which people did with like, you know how the people found gold back then, Chris?
Yeah.
They would like go to a river and they would like, they had this thing they would sit, it was like this, I don't know, remember it's called, a technical term for it, but essentially it's like a thing with a grate on it, and you shovel the sediment out of the river, and then like the dirt goes away and it catches like all the gold. So the problem is, very crowded. Everybody during the gold rush, everybody was trying to make their fortune. Everybody was going to these like deep forest woods, these parts of California, these parts of Canada, all this stuff to try to find these gold deposits. And it was really hard to find an area that wasn't either overrun with people or maybe mined clean at certain points and everything. But the north, those territories with the northwest territories. They're so deep in there. A lot of them are untouched in the Nahanni Valley. Like there were these three brothers, and they had figured, since so little of people have gone through that area, they were like, if there's gold there, it's probably not been touched. So let's go to this area, and we're gonna like, see if we can get some gold. So they mount up, these three brothers, and they go into this valley. It's a very treacherous journey and everything. They have to use even dog sleds at certain point because they're dealing with snow and everything, and they have even just to get to the river that they have to get down to, which I think is called the Flat River, if I remember correctly. And it's anything but flat. It's basically like river rapids and shit, right? And they get through this area, and they, where eventually they come to these areas called like first, second, and third canyons. Oh, first, second, third, and fourth canyons. Again, you can look this up. I know this is right. And what those canyons are, the way that this river goes to get to this area, it's like deep canyon. It's a canyon. The river flows into a canyon where there's these cliffs that go up thousands of feet on either side. They go up so high that during the journey, right, the sun can be like eclipsed by them, and it gets like dark.
Right.
In the canyons, because the cliffs are like, I think they're like 3,000 feet in like the second or third canyons. Like it's these deep areas that they have to go through in order to get to the Nahanni Valley. And like when you're going through these cliffs, there's also like, when you look up, there's like very little shore. Like eventually the shore just kind of disappears. So you have to imagine these three guys going down this river, going like through all these cliffs, and then like there's just like these cave openings on either side, very little to no shore. There's no place. You have to get through the area in order to like rest and not, which is, you're there for a little while, but there's all these cave systems that you can see poking out over these thousands of feet tall caves, like poking out at you. A lot of them, because they're so fucking hard to get to, have almost all of them, except for the ones on like the low shore, have never been explored. So it's just kind of weird. So if something is watching you, there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to let it watch you. There's just, you look up. It's just like weird looking. There's pictures of this shit you can look up. Mm-hmm. So they had made their way through this valley, and they had come to a certain area. I think it was like after Second Canyon or something like that, where they decided to set up camp. These three brothers, right? So they set up camp, they go to find some gold, and they find a lot of gold. They find a shit ton of gold, actually. So they get their gold, and they get all their shit together, and they're like, okay, we'll stay the night, and then we're going to head back. We got all this gold. We have a very successful trip. They were there for like a couple days, but they decide after a few days they're going to head back, and they head back. And as they're heading back, through whatever horrible navigation, probably because they were going, I think, upstream at that point to get back, their boat capsizes, and it also, because of the sheer power of the rapids, it like breaks too, and they lose a bunch of their supplies. They lose all their gold. They lose all the gold, but they're able to recover enough supplies and a few rifles and everything in order to, like, they knew that they could get through it. They got enough of it. And they actually took pieces of their boat, and I was crazy when I hear about this, because I always think of Wayne's World, but like essentially what they did was they hollowed out a tree and like made a new.
Okay.
Right? Talk about things that I just can't do if I'm like, like people like back then were like, oh, this guy can get out of the woods. Why? Because if you give him a buck knife, he'll hollow out a tree and row the rest of the way home.
Right.
I couldn't do that if you paid me $1,000 and 18 pounds of weed. I couldn't do that. But these guys did it. They put a fucking they basically put the boat back together. They used and reconstructed it, and they were able to make it. They decided, okay, well, we'll go back to camp, right? We'll try to see if we can get some more gold,
Right.
get our supplies together, rest because whatever. So they went back to the area. They started,
Get back what they lost.
see if they could get back what they lost. So and they had supplies, and they figured they could go hunting. There's lots of wildlife out there, and they go out there. They find nothing. They don't find anything again. They don't find anything, and they try for like 2 days. They get nothing. And they said, okay, well, we got to head back now. So they head back, and they get back. They actually get back, and I think like one of them, I can't remember exactly which two wanted to go back. I feel like it was Frank and Willie, and Charlie stayed behind. Because Frank and Willie was like, all right, well, we'll get more supplies, we'll re-up, and we'll head back out.
Right.
And we'll just go out there, we'll stay out there a little bit longer and everything like that. What a lot of people would do is they would actually go there and they would build cabins. Like they were setting up camp, but people would stay for like a year. That was kind of the common practice. That's when you went out prospecting. You didn't go for a couple days. You went for a couple weeks. Some people would go to a certain area and stay the winter, and then meet up with more people, partners, to like help mine because they would find a deposit, and then they would be like, all right, I'll find a deposit of gold, which is like, that's when they say people a vein.
Right.
Like a vein is literally like this chunk of gold that's underground that you have to find. That's where it comes from the river. So it's like, well, you'll help me. You have to basically dig it out. So it's like, I'll find it, come down in a couple months. By that time, I'll find something. You guys help me dig it up. I'll split whatever with you because we'll have effectively done half the work or some shit like that. And that's what people would do. So they're like, we'll re-up. We'll head back in. I think Charlie decided he doesn't want to go back. It was a little treacherous. I'm going to stay. Fine, whatever. You guys go if you want. So Willie and Frank, they decide these are McLeod brothers. Willie and Frank decide to go off, and they get a third guy. I think his name was like Robert or something like that, right? I think it was Robert Weird or Weir.
Okay.
I don't know how the fuck I know. Isn't this crazy? Yeah. Or I'm just like... So they go off, and they get a group together. They get all the boats. They get all the supplies. They head back down, and they set up camp down there, and they're gone for a while, okay? Like several months, I would say like 6 months goes by. And Charlie, the brother that stayed behind, is like, it's been a while, but I'd made that journey. I know how long it takes to get down there. And if they found gold, they're going to be down there for a while. And they were pretty set. They brought more supplies with them. It's fine. And then 2 years goes by. No sign of these guys.
Okay.
No sign. And at this point, his brother's like, okay, this is a little much. Like, most people are going for a year. This has been 2. I'm going to get a search party together, and I'm going to go find my brothers and this third guy, right? So he gets a party together. They go down to the Nahanni Valley and everything, and they're going through all these areas. They're going through the canyons. They're going through this one place called the Big Bend, which leads into the second canyon. You can find a picture of that on fucking Google. And, like, they find the camp, and the first thing that they find is they just find this charred body with no head, decapitated.
Jesus.
No head, completely decapitated and everything like that. And this happened. This is on record. This actually happened. This isn't like parent. This is just like a weird. So, one body's decapitated. Another body, they find the tent. Another body's like in the tent, also decapitated. There's 2. They can't find the third guy. They look at the other body, and they're just trying to figure it, because it's also like everything's in kind of like ruins and everything like that. And they're trying to find the area, and they're trying to identify. They don't know.
They don't know if it's
because they're like charred, like they're
right.
they were like burned almost, but they're also like decapitated, right?
Yeah.
So like,
and this is the 1850s, 1860s.
No, this is 1903.
Oh, okay.
1903, right?
Right.
And but even then, they don't have a way of really identifying them. But they like root through the pockets, and they find like some like an old, I think it was like a pocket watch, some identifying stuff that would be like, my brothers had this. So they identified the 2 guys as his 2 brothers, as Charlie's brothers, the other 2 McLeod brothers, Willie and Frank. The weird part about it is, one of the bodies, the first one they found, that was decapitated, there was a gun, like, in front of him, and his hand was, like, reaching out. He died, like, with his hand reaching out. So there was, like, something was trying to find him or some shit like that, right? So that was weird. And they looked around, they could not find the Robert Weird guy, right? Until a couple months later when they found like a severely decomposed, like partial skeleton. It was also decapitated. There was no real way, especially at that time, to actually see if it was Robert or not. It was commonly like that's probably him.
Yeah.
But they never actually found and identified that third body. It's the craziest thing, and that's sort of like the story of the McLeod brothers, but that's not really where the stories of this valley end, because like a lot of these like disappearances, because they came out of the gold rush, a lot of people would see that area and they'd be like, well, that's not going to scare me. I'm going to go get some gold, because people wanted to get rich, and like a lot of people, 90% of the people stayed away from it. But that 10% would like, well, that doesn't scare me, and it should have, And there was so like a couple of years later, I think the other big one, I think I wrote his name down here. Yeah. So like in 1917, right? It like there was Martin Jorgensen. Martin Jorgensen, right? He was like a prospector, and he was like heard about the valley and everything like that. He heard about all the ghost stories, and he goes, "Well, I'm going to go there anyway," because he knew that everybody had said, and they had gold. He knew there was gold there, but just people wouldn't go to it. It's kind of like when you look at a situation and been like, "There's the money right there. You just got to stick your hand through this barbed wire, or whatever the fuck, Like, it's very much one of those things. So remember I told you before about how people like would build cabins?
Right.
So Jorgensen, this is what he was going to do. He had exactly what I said before about like he had two partners, and he said, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to stay there through the winter, and then you guys are going to meet me at this meeting spot, okay? And then I'll meet you guys there, and then I'll take you down after I've found an area, and you'll help me with the rest of the gold and all that shit, right? Oh, I forgot to mention, by the way, one of the weirdest things I found at the McLeod site, and again, which leads credence to why people kept going to this alley, is they found a marking on a tree that was near the campsite that says, "We have found a good prospect," or something like that. Which, again, so there must have been gold. They also, by the way, never found, there was no gold on the site. They didn't find any gold. They didn't find when they found the bodies. So anyway, this guy, Martin Jorgensen, it's like 1917 at this point. He decides that he's going to go out there, right? He's going to get these two partners. He says, "You're going to meet me in this designated area after like a certain amount of time. I'm going to set up the campsite. I'm going to find some of the deposits of gold, and you guys are going to meet me, and we're going to mine the shit out of it. We'll make a bunch of money." Partners agree. He goes down there, and he actually like builds like a little log cabin, like a one-room log cabin down there, right? So the winter passes and goes. His partners go down to that area to sort of meet him, and they get there, and like a day or two goes by, he doesn't show up, which is not insane. It may take a little bit of time. You never know what could happen. He's trying to get to the designated area, but by the time like 4 or 5 days goes by, they're like, okay, well maybe we should go out and look for him, because they're business partners, right? So they start heading into the valley and everything like that, and they're like looking on either sides of this, going through the valley, going through. As soon as there's some shore, they're like, where could he be? Because he said he was going to be near the shore, because that's how you pan for gold and everything. And they find his cabin, and it is burnt to the ground. And I believe that they found his decapitated corpse inside as well.
Holy crap.
Exactly. And the weird part about it is that the police were called, this is in Canada, so the Canadian Mounted Police, whatever, were called to investigate this. And they never made the connection between the two bodies and everything. That's crazy. You'd think there's so many obvious connections, like literally the charred remains and then the decapitation. They never, ever made the connection. And once again, like, they found a marking. I think they found another marking, and why would he stay out there that long? No gold. They didn't find any goddamn gold. And, there's a lot of wild theories that were at this point that were flying around, because the valley's got a lot of history, particularly with like Native American tribes. Like, you can look up a couple stories about how supposedly, I think there was a tribe called the Nahanni tribe, which sort of disappeared. So there's like these stories about like, it was like Wendigos in the woods. These happened 100%, but it's sort of like surrounded by this folklore. And it could just be folklore. This could just be the treacherousness of the woods. It's still very odd, right? But it doesn't stop there. That's the crazy thing about this. This really continues for a very long time. And there's like a couple weird ones. There's one, I wrote this one down. There's a well-known prospector who was called Yukon Fisher. Yeah, Yukon Fisher or some shit like that. And he was like, he was interesting because he was like a part-time prospector, but he was also like a part-time outlaw.
Right.
So it's like when he wasn't working for a living, he was robbing for a living, which is like a weird thing. And he was like wanted and stuff too. He was like a real like wanted outlaw and all that stuff. And then I think he had fled. He fled to the Nahanni Valley in 1927. So now we're in like the 1927 timeline and everything. And he actually like set up camp directly near where the McLeod brothers went missing. And like that's where they found his camp because he was like wanted, so the police were tracking him. And they found him, but they found him without a head in the same area too. Again, no gold was found and everything. And it's just like these occurrences keep coming, but there was like a really weird one. Okay, here it is. This is the one that was like really creepy, right? There was a hunting party in like 1928 that went into the Nahanni Valley. It was comprised of like 6 people, and one of them was this woman by the name of, where the hell is it? Oh, Annie Lafferty. Okay, so the way that this kind of goes, this is a creepy one. This is the weirdest one out of all, because a lot of them, like there was a hunting party. There was like a hunting party with like Joe Mulholland and Bill Epner, but they just kind of vanished. You know, there was stories about people like that have walked ahead and just vanished and everything. There's a lot. You can look these up. There's a bunch of those in the area of like people just sort of disappearing into the woods. But this is one of the creepiest ones I found. Annie Lafferty. There was a hunting party comprised of about 6 people, and then one of them was Annie Lafferty, right? They were going into Nahanni Valley. It was a hunting party, and she was, I don't know if she was like an experienced woodsman, but she knew her way around the woods, and she was with people. So, you know, the idea was basically like she could handle herself. They set up camp near the Headless Valley, and essentially like they wake up the next day and she's gone. You know, they wake up and they're like, have you seen Annie? I don't know. Maybe she's taking a shit in the woods. She hasn't come back yet. Oh, I hope nothing's like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
They literally were like, I don't know where she is. They looked around for her. They really tried. So like a few months go by, and they had said there was like posters up trying to find her and everything. And this is 1920, 26, right?
Right.
So there was, I think they had like a picture, like a poster with like a photograph of her and everything. So there was a prospector. I can't remember his exact name, but there was a prospector that was like in a town that was like a town that people used to like, you know, get gear and everything. There was a bunch of these. They're all, you can, like, some of them are abandoned now, but essentially they're like prospector towns, like stopover areas, so they can, you know, gear up, go back out there and everything.
Yeah. Little mining towns.
Yeah, little mining towns. So one guy overhears them talking about Annie, and he decides, and he kind of like goes, oh shit, and he goes to, I think he goes to the sheriff's office, decides that he's going to go because he has some information. He goes and tells him this weird ass fucking story about how he was camping out in the Nahanni Valley and sleeping at night, and all of a sudden he's awoken by like the sound of like rocks splashing in the water. He goes, what the hell is that? And he goes outside his camp area, like pokes his head outside his tent, and he sees across the river where he's at, there's like a shore, but then there's like a hill, like a small shore, and then there's a hill. And he sees what I can only describe as a bare-ass naked woman running up the hill. And the reason why the rocks are falling is she's running up the hill, and she's just knocking all these rocks in. And he gets out and he looks at her, and then she stops and like stares back in his direction, and he like ducks down because he gets like a good look at her, and he just goes, there was something wrong with her goddamn face.
Oh my
I don't know what it was. Something was wrong with her. Like something was not right. And then she kind of just ran off and everything. And it was like, they showed the dude the poster or whatever, or described her to him, and he goes, yeah, that was her. Like that, 100%. That's how she looked.
Yeah.
But then he was just like, that's it. Like she just ran. That's the creepiest one where I'm like, ooh, to hear, you know, like what had happened, like what happened to this woman. Did she go feral? Did this? Was she still out there? And it's a bizarre valley. And there was like I said, there was whole stories about like tribes going missing in this area. And there was one called the Naha tribe that essentially like, I guess they disappeared overnight. Like they found, like they were there one day and the next day they weren't. Now, to be fair, there's also a lot of stories about how tribes would sort of like disband, but like form with another tribe and become another tribe.
Right.
There's a lot of stories about that. So that could have happened, but still, it's weird that you would just leave all the stuff there.
Yeah.
You know, and there was another instance. Even it just keeps getting weirder. I just looked up all these. I was like, it's weird. I know, but it keeps getting weirder. There was another instance where like there was God, what was the name of them? There was a group of people where essentially like they were setting up camp, and a Native American tribe came in to like, you need to get out of here. Like basically says like, you gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
This is not, you know, there's things out here that are strange and everything like that. And it like really spooked me. I can't remember if anybody went missing, but like up until like 1946, there was like a lot of these disappearances in this Nahanni Valley, which after a lot of these instances, I said it earlier, was nicknamed the Valley of the Headless Men. And it's still there. It's still it's officially named that stretch of land with the McLeod brothers, the Valley of the Headless Men. Some people think that it's some sort of rogue tribe. Some people think it's a Wendigo. Some people say that it was prospectors robbing other prospectors, which it also could have been that.
Yeah.
This sort of like, it doesn't have to be a monster.
Yeah.
But it's still odd that like, you know, and there was like stories that people were like, there's a killer out in those woods. And yet people would still keep going out there to try to again. They would disappear or they would meet some bizarre fate. There was an instance where these two guys went out there, and they knew about there was like a third prospector there. They wasn't with them, but he was a third prospector there. And they set up a camp. They were going to be there for a while. And one of the guys, I think his name was like John O'Brien, actually. He actually started this. They were setting up traps along the river, right? The whole way up, like miles and miles of it. And he goes, all right, well, we're going to be out here for a couple months. Traps have been up. We've been out here for a month. I'm going to go check all the traps in the river. It's going to take me a few days, but I'll see you after about 5 to 6 days, right? 3 days to get up there, whatever to get back. Like a week goes by. He's like, all right, I'm going to go to the other his partner's like, I'm going to go to the other prospector that I know is here. We're going to see if we can find my friend John. So they go up the river, and eventually they do find John, and he's fucking frozen to death. But they said it was just odd the way that they found him, because he wasn't like, remember like the movie The Thing, when you see the people that are frozen to death, they're like some horrible position or like, you know what I mean? Apparently he was just like sitting normally in front of what looked like what was an old fire that at one point was lit. And he's just sitting there. It's almost like he was like Mr. Freeze popped up out of the water and just flash froze him out of nowhere. And that's like another one of the bizarre instances. And they said the weirdest thing about it was he was still holding the book of matches.
Oh my God.
Right? Isn't that fucking weird?
No.
This is fucking weird. Should have been my Halloween episode. This is where I tell fucking weird. This is all true. This isn't like creepypasta. This isn't.
Yeah.
This isn't like. This isn't something that was made up. This isn't like an internet myth. This is real historical stuff that happened. And up until, like I said, like 1946, you know, there was people still going there. There's plane crashes. There's unexplained plane crashes around there. There's a string of unexplained plane crashes. And there's an area called the Funeral Range that lies within remember I talked about the canyons?
Yeah.
It's in Nahanni Valley's like third canyon. And there's the series of rapids there is called Hell's Gate. Here it is. All right, I wrote this down. 1962, 2 unexplained plane crashes added to the legend of Nahanni Valley. In the first incident, the pilot, Angus Blake Mackenzie, survived. He was not injured by the crash, was in good health, and had access to food and water. Angus kept a journal for 42 days after the crash, describing his days in detail. He was doing well and waiting for rescue. When rescuers finally located the wreckage, they found the journal. On day 43, the entries ended abruptly. No trace of Mackenzie was ever found. Just stopped. He essentially just had to wait to be found. Yeah. And for some reason, he just disappeared. They just, So basically, there's like stuff that you can look at, and basically like those like mining, just like 1946, 1962. It has been declared a national park. It was declared a national park, but it's not like a Yellowstone where there's like, this is like the deep woods. And there's parts of it now that are closed off to like public. And some people say that it's because, and it's a treacherous.
Yeah.
People don't realize how treacherous to traverse the land is sometimes. It truly is. So it's basically just to keep for your own safety, but other people say they're cutting it off because maybe there's something out there that the government doesn't want you to see, or some shit, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, Bigfoot's jerking off in the woods. But either way, it's an interesting, like, thing to look up as far as, like, just, like, weird stories. If you just want to get high and, like, listen to this episode. But, yeah, that's just me. That's the story of the Nahanni Valley, and known as the Valley of the Headless Men. Is that weird? Is that good? Was this good?
It's good.
This is good? Yeah. This is great. Cool. This is nothing to watch. It's just me telling a story. So if you like this, I'll do more of these. Maybe we'll do something like once a month if you guys like. This is just filler because it's just hard to schedule people, but I wanted to give you guys some content because you're subscribed and we get a little more subscribers every time. So if you like this, you like getting stoned and listen to weird stories. Like I said, man, I gave you tip of the iceberg. Like, fucking look this shit up. It's interesting as fuck, man. It really is. It's just really interesting, and it's fucking bizarre, and it's like, it's not really tied to any specific kind of, like, there's Bigfoot or any, there's different theories, but, like, these people absolutely disappeared. So it's tied to some sort of realism.
Right.
You know? But we're at the end of the episode, so I'm just going to reiterate some stuff. Number one, like I said, if you want to go to rockcut.shop, get one of these cool t-shirts or a hoodie or a hat. I got hats. I left the hat in the car. Fuck. Anyway, we got hats. We got shirts. Check it out. Keep your eyes peeled for coming up. We're going to put some, like I said, me and Chris are going to be working on a live show, hopefully for the 100th episode. Keep your eyes peeled for that. We're going to do some giveaways of merch, too, I think, at that. Yeah, go to rockcut.shop if you want to get shirts, any kind of merchandise. Like, share, and subscribe if you're broke and just want to support the page. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that kind of shit. And then, like, if you want to see me live, check out my Instagram at that Winchell Kid 87. Go to the Millennial Stoner on Instagram. Follow. We put all the reels up there, and all the links to the YouTube page are in the description. Yeah, and like I said, if you want to show dates, go to my Facebook, Joe Winchell on Facebook, and on Instagram it's that Winchell Kid 87. I post all my show dates on there and on the Millennial Stoner page. All right, always check my story, all right, because sometimes I get stuff at the last second. All right, thank you for listening, guys. This has been me, stoned, telling you a story that I found while I was stoned on YouTube. Just me reiterating YouTube to you guys. But I thought it would be a fun little thing to do. Maybe I'll do it again. There's one about like a ship that wrecked trying to find the Northwest. They made a TV show out of it called The Terror, actually. But this has been the story of Valley of the Headless Men. And this has been a Millennial Stoner of just me. This is the first episode. Well, it's Chris. Chris has been nice enough to bounce all this stuff off me so I don't feel like a crazy person. So, all right, guys. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe.